Halloween is supposed to be a night of laughter, of costumes, and children knocking on doors that they trust. But across America, there are Halloween nights that never ended. Nights where the masks weren't costumes, and the screams weren't just part of the celebration. These are not urban legends. These are not campfire stories. These are real crimes that happened on Halloween night. This is the darkest Halloween nights in American history. On Halloween night in 1961, 4-year-old Janet Rich was left alone inside her family's home in Lincoln, New Hampshire. It wasn't unusual. Her parents planned to be gone only a short amount of time, just long enough to take Janet's older sister trick-or-treating. The house was locked up, Janet was asleep, and Halloween night settled quietly around the neighborhood. When the family returned, Janet was gone. At first, they thought she might be hiding, wandering, or playing a game. But the silence inside the house felt wrong. Investigators soon discovered blood in the kitchen and the living room, far more than could be explained by an accident. There were signs of a struggle, evidence that Janet had been attacked inside of her own home, while the rest of the town celebrated Halloween. Her body was later found nearby. She'd been brutally murdered. The crime stunned New Hampshire. A 4-year-old child, taken from her bed on Halloween night. Police questioned neighbors, investigated possible intruders, and followed leads that ultimately went nowhere. No arrests were ever made, no one was charged, and no definitive suspect was ever identified. Decades later, the murder of Janet Rich remains unsolved, a crime frozen in time. Whoever entered that house vanished back into the darkness, leaving behind questions that were never fully answered. But for one family in New Hampshire, Halloween did not end that night. In 1991, 16-year-old Sabrina Zunick told her mother she was going out with some friends. It was Halloween, the kind of night where teenagers disappear into the darkness, and parents sit at home waiting and assume they will be home soon. But Sabrina never came back. What she didn't know was that the people she trusted the most had already decided she wasn't going to survive the night. A group of teenagers she considered to be friends picked her up and told her they were going to a party. Instead, they drove her to a remote wooded area outside of Beaverton, Oregon. And it was there Sabrina was attacked. She was beaten, stabbed repeatedly, and left alone in the darkness. She died there, on Halloween night, surrounded by people who had pretended to be her friends. When investigators uncovered what happened, the case stunned the nation. The killers were not strangers. They were just classmates. Some were even juveniles. But at least several were tried as adults. And the motive was completely senseless. It was cruel and disturbingly casual. It was a life ended not by accident, not by fear, but by betrayal. And for Sabrina Zunick's family, Halloween became a terrible reminder of a night that trust turned lethal. On October 31st, 1986, 29-year-old Sherry Rasmussen was alone in her condo in Los Angeles. She had been married less than 3 months. While the city outside dressed in costumes, someone came to her door without one. Sherry was attacked inside of her own home, and the struggle was violent, personal, and relentless. She was beaten, bound, and left to die. Her body was discovered the next day. Investigators initially believed it was a random burglary gone wrong, but something didn't fit. Sherry had fought back hard, and she had injured her attacker. And yet, no suspect was arrested. The case went completely cold. Years passed, then decades, until DNA testing revealed something no one expected. The killer wasn't a stranger. She was a police officer, and she was obsessed with Sherry's husband and couldn't stand the fact that he chose somebody else over her. She had waited, planned it all, and then walked free for more than 20 years. Sherry Rasmussen spent her final moments fighting for her life, while her killer blended right back into society. But it's a constant reminder that on Halloween, the most dangerous mask isn't the one you see with a costume. It's the one you never expect. In 1986, 18-year-old Lisa Ann Milliken left her home to attend a Halloween party in Ohio. She never made it home. Somewhere between celebration and mourning, Lisa vanished. Hours passed, then days. When her body was discovered, it was clear this was not an accident. Lisa had been brutally assaulted and then eventually murdered. Investigators uncovered evidence that suggested she had been abducted, restrained, and killed by someone she encountered that night. Someone who saw a Halloween party as an opportunity. The randomness terrified the community. Parents locked their doors, and teenagers were kept inside for months to come. No motive made sense. No suspect fit cleanly. Every lead eventually collapsed. Witnesses contradicted each other, and the case began to rot. To this day, Lisa Ann Milliken's murder remains unresolved, and whoever took her used Halloween night as camouflage. The noise, the costumes, it creates confusion. Lisa walked out into a night meant for celebration and disappeared into one that never gave her back. On Halloween night, 1974, 8-year-old Timothy O'Brien went trick-or-treating in his neighborhood in Pasadena, Texas. He wore a costume. He knocked on doors. He trusted the night. Like millions of children before him, Timothy believed Halloween was scary, but ultimately safe. But when he returned home, his father handed him a treat. One single piece of candy. Minutes later, Timothy collapsed, and by the time help arrived, it was already too late. The candy he had eaten was laced with cyanide, and at first, investigators feared a nightmare scenario, that he was poisoned by Halloween candy handed out by a stranger. Parents across America were in complete shock. But the truth was worse. The poison didn't come from a neighbor. It came from Timothy's father, Ronald Clark O'Brien. He had taken out life insurance policies on his children. He planned the murder completely. He poisoned the candy himself and watched his son eat it. Timothy O'Brien died, trusting the person meant to protect him most. Ronald O'Brien was later convicted and executed for the murder. But the damage was already done. Because of one Halloween night, parents would never look at candy the same way ever again. And this case becomes proof that the most terrifying Halloween crimes are not committed by strangers in the dark, but by the people we trust the most, in plain sight. And let us all remember that Halloween is meant to be a night of imagination, of stories we tell, and fears we pretend to believe in. But the stories you heard tonight were not fiction. They were real people, with real families, that forever have a scar left on them from this bloody night. Remembering these cases isn't about fear. It's about awareness and honoring the lives that were taken. And if there's one thing these stories remind us of, it's how important it is to look out for one another, especially on nights meant for joy. Thank you all for listening, and stay safe out there tonight. And remember, take care of one another. We'll see you on the next one.